Okay, so this is how this is an approach being used to measure profit maximization inside the market by the firm, right? There are two types of approaches where total approach and marginal approach. The things that you're going to see right now is total approach. Why they call it a total approach? Because the only two things involved in here is total cost and total revenue. For as you know that in order to get a profit, total revenue need to subtract by total cost. Total revenue minus by total cost. So where to know the amount of profit maximization you can find here inside here. You see the difference between total cost and total revenue will incur the profit maximization. The more highest, the more longer the distance between total cost and total revenue, the more bigger, the more higher the amount of profit maximization. This is under perfect market situation. Meanwhile, for imperfect market situation, it almost the same. The only difference is just the curve shape only. But in order to find a profit maximization, the most important part is to spot on the difference between total cost and total revenue. Okay, is the distance between total cost and total revenue is higher, we take the highest total revenue achieved and the lowest total cost incurred while making or produce a quantity at this unit. Okay, so this is referred as total profit maximization according to total approach. Total approach must include total cost and total revenue. So the second approach to find profit maximization is marginal approach. Just now I just mentioned to you about total approach. Right now is the second approach where we using marginal approach. In marginal approach, there are two things you have to know. In order to find profit maximization, marginal cost must intersect with marginal revenue. The moment marginal cost intersect with marginal revenue, this is the point where firm or market meet the profit maximization. Okay, it is as long as marginal cost meet with marginal revenue in here. See, this is for under perfect competition market. The graph, the curve look like this. Meanwhile, for the imperfect market, the curve will be look like this. How to find a profit maximization? The marginal cost need to be intersect with the marginal revenue over here. So this is the point. But in order to know the price, how many the price firm or market should consider in profit maximization level, they have to refer to the average revenue curve over here. But it must based on the intersection between marginal cost and marginal revenue. In other words, marginal revenue must equal to marginal cost in order to get profit maximization value according to the marginal approach. There are four types of market structure in this chapter, where it consists of perfect competition market, monopoly, oligopoly, monopolistic, which I will going to explain more detail on the next slide. As you can see, the perfect competition market is referred to this market. This is perfect market. We call it a perfect market, where the price is constant and the goods and product is same. Meanwhile, for the imperfect market category lies this kind of market structure where it consists monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. This is for imperfect market categories. In perfect competition market, you can see there are two types of graph you should know that a market graph and individual firm graph. This is the perfect competition market graph where it consists of demand curve and supply curve. It's a normal graph which you have learned on the previous chapter before this, where in the market graph, you need to identify a point where the amount of supply and demand equilibrium to find out how much is the price and quantity offered in the market. So this graph represent all the firm inside perfect competition market. Meanwhile, this graph referring an individual firm graph, which referring to one firm only. Okay, don't confuse. This market represent all the firm inside the market for the perfect competition market. So this one is referring to one firm only, one company inside the market. So what is mean by the firm graph inside perfect competition? So uh, in perfect competition market, the firm only follows the price being set from the market, which is 10 ringgit. So if the market shows that the price equilibrium is 10 ringgit, so the firm have to follow the actual price. Because of the price is constant, never change, it will affect their marginal revenue and average revenue. So it shows that the graph itself will be shaped horizontally. Okay, it will shape horizontal in terms of price, marginal revenue, and average revenue. And for your information also, this graph also represent a demand for the firm product, which means that the demand is perfect elastic. It's point towards infinity in this market. Once again, I have to remind you about the techniques and method being used to find a profit maximization in the perfect competitive market. So there are two type of approach in order to find a profit maximization where I just shared to you just now, where remember, total approach and marginal approach. But right now, we are in the perfect competition market where the graph just look like this for the total approach. Meanwhile, for the marginal approach, it will be look like this. So, as you know that total approach must involve total revenue must be bigger than total cost, where the distance between total revenue and total cost must be higher. The more higher, the more far the distance between total revenue and total cost, the more higher the profit maximization. How about the marginal approach? Marginal approach is the marginal cost need to equal with marginal revenue. As I just mentioned to you that because of the price is constant and similar, the average revenue and the marginal revenue itself will be horizontal line. So this is represent marginal revenue. How about the marginal cost? In perfect competition market, marginal cost will be shaped like this, like Nike, right? Okay, the intersection where it shows the marginal cost unit will be equal to the marginal revenue unit. So the quantity for the equilibrium quantity will be at 40 unit at 10 ringgit. So this is where they find profit maximization according to the marginal approach in perfect competition market. This is an explanation about the profit maximization by using total approach, which is more detailed. Okay, the thing that I just shared to you is just a general, but that one is more detailed about total approach in perfect competition market. So how to find out according by by looking on the table itself. So where is the profit maximization? As I just mentioned to you, total revenue minus by total cost approach, where the difference is in here. This is the difference. The more highest the value, The more highest the distance, the more highest the value. So where to know that, if you see here, the moment quantity increase, quantity of good being sold increase, total revenue will be increase. Same goes to the total cost. The difference between revenue and cost will create a profit. So at a level of 4 quantity, the difference between total revenue and total cost is at 10 ringgit, which means that they are making profit at 10 ringgit. That is the most highest profitable they can achieve. So this is the amount they can achieve in perfect competition market, where at quantity of 40, at this level, at this total revenue and total costs, at total revenue in 400, meanwhile for the total cost at 390. So they can gain 10 ringgit profit maximization in here. It referring to this part. All right. What about the marginal approach? The second methods, which is marginal approach, where I just already mentioned to you, this is for more details explanation. The marginal revenue need to equal with marginal cost approach. If you can see here, because of the price is constant and similar, doesn't matter how much quantity or product being sold in the market, the price is still constant. Because of the price constant, the marginal revenue will be constant. Then it shows the curve into horizontal shape like this. So it represents the marginal revenue. As long as marginal cost and marginal revenue intersection into this point, it shows that it reached profit maximization at this point, where the price is at 10 ringgit with a quantity at 40 offered in the market or being sold in the market. So how you look into the table? You see here, total revenue will be increase the moment the quantity offered in the market increase. Meanwhile, for the marginal revenue will be the same. As quantity increase or decrease, they still the same. Meanwhile, for the total cost will be increased as the quantity being sold in the market increase. Meanwhile, for the marginal cost will be also increased as like this. They march towards on the upward. So how to know which level the firm making profit at highest maximum level? So by looking at the same amount of marginal revenue and marginal cost approach. They are not subtract by total revenue to the marginal to the total cost, because this is not a total approach. This is marginal approach, where we looking on the marginal revenue and marginal cost. As long as marginal cost and marginal revenue is similar, then the 10 ringgit will be the quantity at 40 quantity will be the level where firm can achieve profit maximization at 10 ringgit as a profit. In short run, how firm in perfect competition market make a profit? Here, if you can see, they are using marginal approach, where marginal costs intersect with the marginal revenue at this point. Meanwhile, the average revenue and marginal revenue are priced in the horizontal line for the price at 20 ringgit. This is the price MR and NR for perfect competition market. So this is the point B, where the profit at maximization point. So at the same time, they put average total cost over here, which means that all of this area is a revenue. Meanwhile, the average total cost, only this point represent costs for the company. This is cost area. So the revenue deduct by the cost will get profit over here. So this is how they're making profit in this situation. How about break even? Break even happens when the total revenue equal to total costs. So as you can see that what happened to total revenue at break even. So this is a break even condition where when the marginal cost intersect with the marginal revenue at point B, it shows that the firm are making revenue at this amount from P to B to Q and to 0 over here. So this is the amount of revenue gained by the firm. How about the costs incurred in this process, in this business? We see at the average total cost. So the amount of cost also similar with amount of revenue, where you see here over here it intersect with a B point, where the amount of cost is also similar to revenue. In these cases, total revenue and total costs are equal, where we call it as a firm at break-even condition. There are no profit and there are no loss also. The third condition in a short-run profit maximization is loss. The condition where firm didn't making any profit, or in other words, they call it as a economic losses or sub-economic profit. So you see here, you see how they lost and could not even making profit at this situation. If you can see, when marginal cost intersect with marginal revenue at point B, the amount of revenue gained by the firm is only at this area only. So which means that the number of revenue gained by the firm at area which cover P, B, Q and 0 over here. Meanwhile, the number of cost, total cost incurred by the firm starting from here to here to here to here. So this is the amount of costs need to bear by the company. Because of the number and the amount of costs are more bigger than the revenue, firm will incur losses, which means that they could even make a profit because amount of loss is much more bigger than revenue at B. So the additional costs incurred in this situation, we call it as a loss, which means that company could not even making a profit. As you can see here, this is where you decide either you want to choose to shut down your operation or not when your firm is having losses or couldn't making any profit. In order to decide either it should be shut down or not, it's depend on your price position. Let's say your price is at 20 ringgit. So this is your price level where marginal cost equal to marginal revenue. This is your profit maximization. Your revenue at this coverage, this is your revenue. Let's say if your price is under the minimum average variable cost, this is the minimum average variable cost, where if your price is under this level, then your firm need to be shut down in order to prevent any more losses. Let's say if your price is above the average variable cost, which means like this, so your firm supposed to not to be shut down. Because why? It still can cover your total fixed cost even though you are having a losses. Why? If you decide to shut down your firm, that means you have to pay all the total fixed cost over here. This is all total fixed costs, when you are having losses. Even you are not operating. Remember, if you are not operating or produce anything, you still have to pay total fixed costs. But if you decide to operate, even though you're having losses in here, you still can cover more than half of total fixed costs. At least the amount of losses you bear is only this part only. It lower the cost of losses bear by your firm. So that is the reason why a firm supposed to not to shut down the operation, because even though they are having losses, as long as the price is above the average variable cost over here. Okay, this is the profit maximization in perfect competition market, where in the long run, when the firm in the perfect competition market are making profit, lot of firm and company are going to enter into this market in order to make profit. So when a lot of firm going into or entry into this perfect competition market, the number of supply move to the right side. So the amount of supply move to the right side. What happened to the amount of quantity, supply, equilibrium, and price? The equilibrium price will going to decrease from 20 ringgit to 15 ringgit. So this is what we can see in the market graph. So what happened to the firm graph after a lot of firm going to enter into the market due to the moving supply curve to the right side? The price will going to decrease from 20 ringgit to 15 ringgit. At the first place, originally, firm are making profit when the marginal cost intersect with marginal revenue at this point. So they are making profit. After a lot of firm going into the market, the number of supply make the number of price going to decrease. So the marginal revenue and the price will be changed from here to here. Okay. So what happened to the firm profit maximization? At this point, the amount of profit gained by the company only at this area only. This is the revenue. How about costs? So because of the increasing number of supply makes the price decrease, the revenue only able to cover all the costs only. So that is the condition where we call it break-even condition, where the firm didn't making any profit. At the same time, there is not also having a loss. The number of revenue equal to the amount of cost. So how about long run for perfect competition market, where the firm or the market is having losses? When the firm are having losses in the market, a lot of firm who having losses, they decide to quit their business. They decide to shut down their business. Most of them will going outside, exit from the industry or exit from the market. What happened when all of the firm going outside and exit from the market? So the number of supply will decrease. That means the supply curve will be moving to the left side from here to here. Okay, what happened to the equilibrium price? Of course, the equilibrium price will be increased from 10 ringgit to 15 ringgit. So this is the condition where we can see in the market graph. So how about the firm graph? Because of the increased price from 10 ringgit to 15 ringgit due to the decrease in supply, because a lot of firm in the market going to exit, the the amount of losses, originally the firm itself are having losses, because why? Here you see at 10 ringgit the amount of revenue only at this level, where the marginal costs intersect with the marginal revenue. Yang ini, that one here is the point. Okay, meanwhile the average, the amount of costs is far more higher than revenue only here, cost until here. So because of the price going to increase from 10 ringgit to 15 ringgit, so the marginal revenue move from here to here. So what happened when the price is 15 ringgit? So the amount of revenue increase from here to here. Okay, so this is the new amount of revenue. So the new amount of revenue able to cover all the costs here, all the costs bear by the firm. When you see the average costs minimum point is inside here. So this is a condition where we got a break-even condition, where the firm, because of a lot of firm going to exit from the market, so the remaining firm will facing break-even condition, where they didn't get any profit, or they didn't have any losses. Okay, this is profit maximization for monopoly market. As you can see, this approach, we call it as total approach, where total revenue minus total costs to get the profit maximization. Same goes to the perfect competition market also, where the more longest the distance between total cost and total revenue over here, the more higher the profit maximization in that market. If you see on the graph itself, the highest vertical difference. So how about in a table form? So in a table form, you can see that in the biggest difference between total revenue and total cost, you can see at 760. That 760 is the profit after cost 1400 minus by 2160 revenue, and that happened at quantity 8, where they offer or they supply a quantity in the market in 8 numbers. The second method to measure profit maximization in monopoly market is marginal approach, where we have learned it on the previous market. So as you know that marginal approach, marginal revenue need to be similar with marginal costs. If you see in the table, it shows that when the marginal revenue at 200, at the same time the marginal cost also indicate 200. So this is the point where the market create the most profitable profit, which is at the most profit maximization level at quantity 8. So as a graph, so based on the graph itself, marginal cost intersect with a marginal revenue, it will create a point where the intersection between this point must be need to be pushed forward to the average revenue curve. So at the average revenue curve, it determines your equilibrium price. So this is how we find out the equilibrium price and quantity for the monopoly market. So in the short run, how monopoly market are making profit maximization, which is earning an economic profit. In other words, making profit. So as you can see here, when the marginal cost intersect with the marginal revenue in point A, they are making profit maximization at this point. So in here you can see, see the quantity through this point, and how they decide the price is based on the average revenue here, intersection with the average revenue. Yes, so this is how they achieve the profit maximization in monopoly market. It is not the same like perfect competition market where the average revenue and marginal revenue, it is horizontal in curve, but this one is different. So how they making profit? By find out the average total cost. So here is the revenue they earn in the market. So for the cost, they earn from A to here, to here, and to here. This is the cost. So this is the amount of profit earned by the monopoly firm in the market. How about break even, where the revenue equal to the cost? There is no profit and loss. So here, as usual, marginal cost intersection with marginal revenue, it is in equal, where the price, the equilibrium price and quantity, you can get from here, from this way. Then the average total cost at the minimum average total cost point, intersection with the average revenue point over here. So basic. So in other words, the total revenue gained by the firm in short term is similar with total cost incurred by the firm in monopoly market. So how about short run, when the firm are having economic losses? In other words, they are not making profit, they lost their money. So as you can see, they are making revenue, their revenue at this area. This is their revenue. So where to identify their costs? You see the average total cost curve are located above the average revenue. It shows that the amount of cost is more higher than revenue. So you can see the amount of losses incurred by the company at this area. Then for the long run, as uh, as I have showed to you, that in the long run, monopoly market will make a supernormal profit. In other words, they are making profit in the long run due to the no any other competitors in the market. So they're enjoying that monopoly, the monopoly privilege, and that makes they profitable in the long run. So the rules to achieve supernormal profit, as long as your revenue is higher than your long run cost over here. So this is your cost, this is the cost, meanwhile your revenue are much more bigger than cost, so that you are making profit over this region, this part.